Maria Marsala with Elevating Your Business. She is going to talk to us today about how to stop working with jerks, basically how to attract better clients and how to do it quickly. Maria is an expert in business planning as well as being a certified one-page business plan consultant. She's a former Wall Street trader. We were just on the line earlier talking about what it was like to be in the financial services industry before everything went kablooey. I'm not going to spend much time talking today. I want to give as much time as I possibly can to Maria, and I'm going to go ahead and turn everything over to her. Hopefully you can see her slides right there on the screen. And Maria, do you want me to go ahead and launch that first poll for you?
Yeah, that'll be great. Thanks a lot. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Have a couple of polls here, trying to get the pulse of how you're doing. So the first poll to answer is, I spend lots of time marketing, networking, etc., but I don't attract enough perfect clients. Is that true or false for you?
I'm just watching here real quick to see how many people have voted, and it looks like just about everybody has voted in the poll. So I'm going to go ahead and close this one out. Actually, I just got a couple people that jumped on the call real quick. So hang on one second, and we will leave that open for just a second, and we'll go ahead and close it. Here's the results of that poll.
Okay, I can't see the results, so if you just tell me what...
Oh, I'm sorry. Interestingly enough, 100% of the people said that they spend a lot of time marketing, networking, but they don't attract enough perfect clients.
Okay. Sounds good. You want to do the second question?
Absolutely. Let me get down here.
So focus. Okay.
So I'm working with clients that I love. Either yes or no. Let's see what we get on that one. And I'm going to give you about 15 more seconds to get everybody in and voting. And, 100% of the people have voted, and take a look at the results here. Again, 100% of the people said that I'm working with clients I love working with. Let's see what the third poll shows. How about I have a list of the pains and attributes of my ideal client. So do you all know everything there is to know about your ideal clients, yes or no? And I'm assuming by list you mean written list, right, Maria?
Yeah, something written down. Mine's actually on my website.
I love it. So often I ask people a question about, do you have a list? And they go, oh, yeah, it's in my head. So how many times could you repeat that list and get it right each time? And they kind of, maybe not. Maybe I should write it down.
Yeah, having it on your website is really good because people will be able to identify themselves as they're reading it and say, that's me, that's me, that's me.
Oh, that's huge. All right, let's take a look at the results here of this poll. 100% of the people said, no, I do not have a list of the pains and attributes of my ideal client. Well, the good news is they're in the right place, right?
Yeah, exactly. This is definitely the right place to be. You know, when I used to be asked, you know, what's the one thing that a business owner is missing that will help them get more focused and clear and get better clients, I used to say a plan, because I am a strategic planner and I know the positive effects that creating a plan have on businesses. However, you can't even create a plan without knowing who your client is, what their pain is. You just can't create anything. But more often than not, I meet people at networking groups and I scratch my head and say to myself, why are these people here? This is like the wrong group for them to be in. You know, they're not going to find any of their ideal clients here. And when things were good in the economy, you know, people would just go to meetings and, you know, check things out. But especially nowadays, you really need to strategically network and strategically market so that you can get the kind of sales and bring in the new clients that you want to bring in. So you really need to take a look at who is that person that you're dealing with. And if you feel that you are spending an awful lot of time marketing and networking, doing the busyness part of business, and you're not getting the sales that you want, some of that definitely can be because of your selling skills, and that's Laura's specialty. And some of it can be because you don't know who you're selling to. And so I tell a story about going to a networking event and seeing a marketing coach and asking the marketing coach, who I wanted to possibly partner with, who his ideal clients were, and his response was anyone who, and I don't even remember what he said after that, because I said, if this is the kind of answer he's giving me, I don't want any of my clients even talking or knowing about this person. You've got to be really clear. Are his clients business owners? Do they work with other business owners? Are they business owners who work with consumers? So are they B2C companies? You know, what are they? Who are they? Are they women? Are they men? And we're going to talk a lot about that as we go on today. So thank you very much, everyone, for completing the poll. I appreciate it. So today we're going to take a look at two major pieces. One is going to be, we're going to look at what are the 6 steps that I've come up with that are necessary to identify your ideal client. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I came up with these steps because of all the mistakes I made when I went into business for myself. And the second piece is I want to teach you about a process called Go, No, Go, which is a very simple way to do business with the best clients. So it's a way to narrow down who you end up wanting to work with. And I tell the story, I came from Wall Street, and one of the cool things about the whole financial industry is that they all know who their ideal client is. If you go to a specific insurance company, they know who their ideal client is. I worked in brokerage. The company either worked with retail, small clients, or they work with big institutions. But every company, as of 2 years ago, had their own specialty. And so when I went to networking events, or I did marketing, or I did any kind of work, I needed to go to events where the companies similar to mine were and go meet the traders at that company and network with them, because networking is all about building relationships. I couldn't go to, if I was at Bear Stearns, which is where I spent a lot of my life, if I was at an event representing my company, I couldn't go to an event that had a totally different ideal client and expense that. Yet how often, if you look at the events that you go to, how often, if you were to give your boss, which is the other side of who you are in most cases of the people on this phone call, you were to give your boss your expense account, are there things that you are doing that he or she would say, no, we're not going to expense that. That has nothing to do with growing your business. So having an ideal client profile will help you focus on the types of clients that you want, whether it's your sales, your marketing, your PR, whatever. This is a quote that I really like on creating ideal clients. So as I said, there were 6 parts to an ideal client profile. And everyone here, and Laura kind of alluded to this before, has who your ideal client is in your head. The problem is it's not doing you any good there. when I wrote down my ideal client profile, first of all, years ago when I went to go look for any information to help small businesses create an ideal client profile, I couldn't find anything. So I had to make a lot of this stuff up in my head and then put it down on paper. And when I put it down on paper, I said, you know, those are very interesting attributes, but do those people have the money to be able to afford me? Do they want to hire a business coach? Or are they more people who want to do everything on their own? And I was working with new business owners at the time, and only new business owners. And what I realized was that I was going after the wrong audience. Because new business owners, most of the time, don't have the money to pay a business coach. Or if they come from, if they may come from corporate America, that may be a little bit different. They may have the funds to do that. But one of the things I find with brand new business owners is they want to do everything themselves.
Yeah, they always think that sounds like that I had that same experience. It's like they don't want to spend any money. They want to like learn by doing, and they're comfortable making all the mistakes themselves rather than paying somebody who's already made all those mistakes and learned the lessons already.
Right. And I mean, I don't know how much my mistakes have cost me. And I've been in business for 12 years this last time. But I'm presuming that it's over $100,000 worth of errors.
Wow.
And wouldn't you want to have the experience of somebody that made those errors and came out on the other side? And how much is that experience worth? You know, how much is it worth taking a sales program that somebody that has all the information, that has a program that's going to give you all their information, that's going to freely provide their content and templates and et cetera. How much is that worth in time? Your time. Because everybody on this call, even though we may not charge per hour, we know kind of what our hourly rate is. And is it worth making all the mistakes that I made? Or is it worth doing what you're doing right now and being on a call so you can learn some of this stuff? So the first thing is take whatever is in your head and put it down in paper where it could do you some good. So here's the 6 steps that I came up with on creating an ideal client profile. And I'm going to go through each one of these steps with Laura and you on the phone. Okay. So you want to create a client from hell exercise. You want to visualize your ideal client. You want to know what your ideal client has to say. You want to describe your ideal client. You want to interview them. And then you want to create some kind of a statement. Okay, and we'll go through these one by one. So the first thing you want to do is what I call the crappy client exercise. Everyone here has had them. You know, you've had a client from hell. And so what I want you to write down, and this will be your homework, is I want you to take out a piece of paper, put a line down the middle, and on one side of the paper, put either crappy clients or clients from hell, and I want you to write down a list of the attributes those clients had. So maybe they didn't pay you on time. Maybe they drove you nuts with all the change orders. And not only that, they wanted all these change orders, but they didn't want to pay for them. Maybe they don't get you the information on time that you need in order to be able to help them and do the job you set out to do for them.
I know one of the ones on my list was yells first and asks questions later.
Yes. You know, how did they treat you? And for some of you, your list is going to be short. You know, if you're a brand new business owner, you may have to go and interview some other business owners to find out what problems they have. So on the right side of the page, you write your crappy client exercise. And then on the left side of the page, you turn those items around. So if one of the items says, They always pay 60 days late. The other side may say they pay 50% upfront. So it's you starting to create what that ideal client looks like to you. Because our bad clients have taught us many lessons. You know, they've taught us how to update our contracts to be more specific. They taught us how to get more money up front. So we can learn some good lessons from those clients, but then not want to have any more of those lessons to learn. Any questions on that exercise or doing that work? Some of my clients actually create a ceremony in regards to this exercise, this one that I just went over. And the ceremony is that once you do the good side of that exercise, you cut the piece of paper in half, you go out and make a little barbecue, and you say goodbye to the crappy client. A little ceremony to kind of get rid of them and kind of let them all go and clean everything out.
Can you throw the list on the ground and stomp on it for a while first?
That sounds good. Whatever is going to help you to grow your business and get better clients. And I've got clients, of course, who don't, burn it. They just cut it in as minuscule pieces of paper as they can, so they get some of their frustrations out on that. But it's interesting that just doing this one exercise, you'll start noticing your ideal clients when they start coming to you. Because as long as you have all this stuff in your head, you're not noticing who to spend more time with. Visualize your ideal client. You can sit in a chair, however you want to visualize it. But visualize you being at a networking event, for example, and meeting your ideal client. What does that person do? Who do they work with? How are they treating you? How do you know that they are your ideal client? So spend some time visualizing. Because we want to get all your senses going in the 6 exercises.
So even with this one, I mean, as far as visualizing it, okay, what do they look like? Maybe what does their voice sound like? Even if they wear perfume or cologne, maybe pick one of your, like if it's a guy, I always love it when they wear the same cologne that my dad wears. I just like them better. I mean, it can't help it.
Definitely. We all have what we want to visualize. When I visualized my ideal clients, what I came up with was something like they were female, they were B2Bs, they worked in the service industry mostly. Many of them were from corporate America, but many of them weren't. And the ones that weren't from corporate America, that originally came from corporate America, they had a picture of their business that was bigger than themselves. They did not want to stay solopreneurs forever. Now, some of them definitely want, $10 and $15 million companies, and some of them have, but the size doesn't matter, the mindset of the person matters. So they can have one employee, they can have 5 consultants working for them, but their business had to be more than themselves. And so when I go to networking events, for example, I listen to people, and I always ask the question, how many employees or consultants do you have? I make a lot of questions based on who my ideal client is. So what does your ideal client say? This is really important. How can you tell somebody what a good referral for you is? For example, if you don't know what they're going to hear your ideal client say. So, for example, my ideal client would not say, I'm thinking about starting a business. My ideal client would say, I've been trying to increase my profits, and I can't. I've tried doing it myself. I don't have systems set up. I don't have a business plan. I don't know what I'm doing on the business side of what I'm doing, and I need some help. Or the other thing you'll hear my ideal clients say is, I did not go into business to work 80-hour weeks. This is crazy. So what does your ideal client say that would allow other people to know that they are your ideal client?
Well, so like for me, one of the things my ideal client says is, we're doing a convention this year. Would you like to be one of our speakers?
Mm-hmm. And who is your audience?
My audience is business owners.
Okay. So your audience and my audience would be the same thing. So when it comes to speaking, we would have the same thing. Now, if the engagement needed a salesperson, I would not be the person to call.
Right.
But you would.
Exactly. Yes. If they want to make money, I'm the one.
Okay. And for me, if they want to make money, but they need to learn more about the business fundamentals, business plans, ideal client profiles, how to market, how to network, setting systems up in general, I would be the person to have at that event. And it's possible we both could be at the same event if it's a convention for business owners and they're looking to have speakers that would help people make more money. We might both be at the same event.
Absolutely.
So knowing who your ideal client is and what they say is really important. Because I've had people ask me to speak and the audience is virtual assistants or secretaries and stuff, and that's not my audience. And I scratch my head sometimes when conferences contact me, and it really makes no sense for me to be speaking because I'm not the right audience. However, I usually know another audience, another person for them to get to speak. So what does your ideal client say is just as important to put that information on your website. And I don't have it on my website as here is what you'll hear my ideal client say, although I can do that, and I think in the past I have. But I hope that in the titles of my page, I'm capturing what they will be saying. So when somebody comes to my website, they'll be able to see themselves there and know that they will be a good client for me and that I will be able to help them. Number 4, describe them. So you've got demographic, geographic, psychographics, sociographic, and the new one that I'm actually going to be creating a chapter on is technographic. So you want to know everything about them. Where do they live? In what part of the city? Is there a certain zip code that they live in? They're on the internet? What websites do they subscribe to? What things do they read? What makes them tick? Are they male or female? What ages are they? And usually I tell people, 15 years of an age gap is more than enough. 20 is like maximum. But having clients who are ages 15 to 60 is not going to be helpful to your business. You need to make people special, and that's another piece of this whole ideal client profile. When somebody comes to your website, when they read your brochure, when they see you at an event and you are describing what you do in your elevator pitch, they need to know that they are special in your lives and that your business is going to be able to help them.
Maria, I've got a question that I think is really applicable for this spot right here as we're doing these descriptions. Question is, when you're identifying your client, are you focusing on the organization or the person who you would ideally be working with directly? So I know the person who's asking this question, and her company works with big, large corporate entities. So should she be thinking about the type of company that she wants to work with, or her contact within the company, the person who's going to be hiring her?
That's an excellent question. I think you're going to be looking at both. There's probably a specific size company you want to target that's going to need you the most to help them do whatever it is that you do. Usually some way of growing their business or making it more efficient. So you want to look at the size company, and then you want to look at who's going to be hiring you and what are the specifics for that.
So it's kind of a two-step process. Pick the company first, and then within the company, the individual.
Right. And so I'll give you, for example, when I was looking to switch companies on Wall Street, I went to a book that listed all the brokerage firms. And I wanted to continue working downtown Manhattan, and so that helped me separate some of the companies from other companies. The next thing it was, I wanted to work with companies that had less than 1,000 employees. And so that, again, made my niche a bit more narrow that I was looking at. The final thing was, I needed to get to the operations manager of that company. So that was like a 3-level process. So the first thing you need to know is the size of the company, and then you need to get to the right person. I had a client who contacted me who was ripping her hair out because she had a great program. She had just signed up for a couple of different organizations to go to. She had gone to a couple of meetings, and she didn't even get asked for her business card. And when we started working together and she did her ideal client profile, what she realized by going, okay, what size company do I need, and then who do I need to get in touch with? When she did one of the steps on here, which is interviewing who she thought was her ideal client, what she found out was that she was actually targeting the gatekeeper of the company for what she sold. So that meant that the person that she thought was the right person that was going to buy her product was really the person trying not to get her into the company. They were the gatekeeper. They're kind of like the secretary is to the CEO. They'll hold you back from talking to the CEO if they don't think that what you've got is going to help the company good enough.
Well, it looks like I just checked with the question asker. I think you did answer her question. I did want to just feed that back to you.
Great, thank you. And so the new thing to add is the technographic. And that's real important depending on what you're selling or not selling. For me, technographics is not the most important thing. I have clients that I work with who are just learning how to use email, or who need to learn how to attach a document to their email, or they've never created a web page before, or they don't know HTML code or whatever. So for my business, that's not important, but I bet for some of the people on this call, a person's level of computer knowledge and computer use may be very important. And so that's another area to start taking a look at when you're doing your ideal client profile. You want to interview the people you think are your ideal clients. You want to interview them, and usually I tell people bring 5 to 10 questions with them. You can interview your former clients, but also look for people that you think, your former ideal clients, but also interview people you think may be your ideal clients or your next ideal client. And you want to interview them because you want to find out, are they the gatekeeper? Is there somebody else in their company who would purchase from you a lot quicker than they would? Are you hitting the right target? Are you hitting the right company? Lots of times you will go back after an interview and tweak who your ideal client is because of the information you have learned. You may find out that they read XYZ trade paper. That would be a great trade paper for you to submit an article to. Lots of people write articles and they submit them to the trade paper of their own industry. If your ideal clients are in your industry, that's fine. But why not change that article around and send it to a trade paper that your ideal clients read? So interview them. And yes, I'm usually asked the question, oh, I don't want to interview, I'm going to bother them, da, da, da. It's not true. People love helping people. Don't grill them to death. But when you call, ask if you can speak to them for 10 or 20 minutes. I've had people say, well, why don't we go get a cup of coffee? Why don't we go to lunch? And of course, if you do go to lunch or coffee with somebody, pick up the tab.
It's so funny that you have to say that, but it's a good point. I'm glad you made it.
You know, you're asking for the help, even if they're a CEO of a big shot company, you know. And always send thank you. But I would say that you want to interview between 1 and 5 people, and you don't want to set all the interviews up at the same time, because what you learn from person A, you may want to change your questions around for person B.
Maria, can I ask you another question real quick? I just got one that goes to I think the question of the ideal traits and the demographics, and a question I have here is, do you have suggestions for the best resources from which to collect the information that you're suggesting, other than the obvious websites, marketing materials? Do you have some ways to gather information about the companies that you think are, or the people that you think are ideal for you, whether it's gathering information about their traits, but also where to find them to interview them? You have some ideas for how do I get those people?
You know what? I'm gonna write a little something on that, and because I don't have the answer right off the top of my head, but that is an excellent question, and probably an article for next week.
Okay. Will you send that out to me so I can make sure that everybody gets a copy of it? Okay.
So you have that question written down. If you can send it to me, I will write something up on it, even a couple of tips. But you are right. Online, you can get a lot of information. You can do a search on Twitter. You can do a search on LinkedIn. You can do a search on Facebook for the word you're looking for. And a lot of my clients do not use social networking, but they will for that reason, to do research on people. But I will together on a list of 5 or 10 places and get it out.
That's perfect.
Great question. 6, write it down. You have to write it down. You know, I tell a story. I live across from Seattle, Washington, but as most of you can tell, I'm not from here. I'm from Brooklyn. And I tell a story about how I had to move 3,000 miles from home to do a business plan I was willing to do. And what I mean by that is I taught business plan classes on the East Coast. I taught 20, 50-page business plan classes. But I never saw a reason to do my own plan because I didn't need funding. And so when I came out to Washington State, I found a program called the One-Page Business Plan, and I went to a class they gave, and I wrote down what I was doing in my business. And when I saw that information on paper, it was great stuff, and marketing and blah, blah, all the stuff was right. And all the stuff I got compliments on from my own coach and from people in the audience. But it wasn't working for me the way I wanted it to work. How I wished I had written some of that stuff down. Same thing with your ideal client. When I wrote my ideal client profile down, as I mentioned before, I looked at it and said, oh my God, no wonder I'm not getting the clientele I want to get. I need to change this. So when you write it down, you get a picture of really a snapshot of what you've been doing. Then you could make the changes that you need to do. So by writing it down, whatever is in your mind right now, you're kind of doing an assessment of where things are right now. And then that allows you to do part two, which is where do you want to be? What kind of clients do you want to have?
Maria, can I bop it?
Mhm.
I'm gonna sneak another question in on you because
Sure.
it has to do with number 5, and I want to get to it before we move too far forward.
Mhm.
Chris has a question. Are you setting up the interviews that you talked about in step number 5 as a first step in the prospect with a prospective client, or are you really doing this for insight into the client, into the
Excellent.
ideal client?
Excellent question. Never to sell. It's like an informational interview that you would be going on. And that's all it is. Now, does selling happen? A lot of times it does because they realize they are your ideal client and they want more information, but don't make it a sales call. It's kind of like, don't put your business card in a thank you note. It just doesn't fit right.
Got it.
If they want to sell, if they want to buy your product, et cetera, and have that kind of a phone call, tell them you appreciate that and you would be more than willing to have a conversation with that and send them information and, stay a little bit longer or whatever if you've got that opportunity. But really try and only keep this to an interview. Don't, your intention is you're gathering information that's going to help you in the long term. And that's a great question. I just had a client who's a marketing person, and that situation actually just happened to her, where she contacted somebody, had an interview, and they said, even though I'm not your ideal, it was a different industry, I'd like to know more about what you do. And so that does definitely happen. Great question.
Wonderful. Thanks. Okay, I'll let you proceed now, and I'll stop interrupting you.
No, I love it. No, more questions, the better. This is about the people who are on the call. It's not about me. So I'll go where you want me to go. So those are the 6 steps in creating an ideal client profile. Now, sometimes you might get to step 3 and then realize you got to go back again, or you might get to step 4 or 5, or you might do interviews and say, oh my God, this just saved me, a year's worth of aggravation because I've actually been targeting the wrong person, blah, blah, blah. Or you may do 2 interviews and say, wow, I got it down pat. Let's go on to the next step. The added step that I talk about is that you want to create a go, no-go list. What does this mean? I have mine in an Excel spreadsheet. You want to write down, these are all the attributes of the clients, my ideal client. The ideal, not a client, but the ideal client. And then on the other side of the page, or on the other side, second column, as you can tell, I'm very much into nice, easy ways of doing this stuff. In the second column, you want to write what's the minimum you would be willing to work with a client. So what are the least amount of attributes that client has, the least amount of technographic, geographic, psychographics, all those graphics.
So they have to be at least 30 years old. They have to, their business has to be at least 2 years old. They have to live no more than 50 miles from downtown Seattle.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Speaking engagements need to have X amount of people at the engagement to make it worthwhile for me to go to if they, don't want to pay my regular rates and I got to give them some kind of a discount. Even that, I have a go, no-go for my speaking engagement. Here's my regular price, and here's the lowest I'll go.
Did you just tell everybody that your prices were negotiable?
No, but for local nonprofits, they are negotiable.
Okay.
But not if I have to get on a plane or drive.
You were giving me the heebie-jeebies there for a minute. Okay.
No. But that's what you want to do. And for some people, some prices are negotiable and some prices aren't negotiable. Depending.
Absolutely. And are you talking here too about, for instance, if you have a volume discount, like if say you're an author or you get a book and for one book, the minimum you'll take is $15, but if they order 100, you do them for $12 or something. Would
Right.
you
And
would
I've
you
had
put that in
somebody,
your list too?
yeah, and that's not a list that's going out to anybody but you, but it's going to help you determine if somebody is a good client or not a good client. And I have turned down speaking engagements because they wanted to buy a book that I get at $17 and they wanted it for 15. And I said, well, I can do that, and so I've turned down that part of the engagement
Super.
because I'm not going to take a loss on something. I'm asked to speak at conferences that don't pay speakers.
I,
Huh?
I've always
How am I supposed to get on the plane? I can't walk there.
I've gotten offers to speak at those too. They said, "Sure, we would love to have you in front of our audience. You'll have to pay to attend the conference, and we won't pay you a
Hmm.
fee or pay your travel arrangements." And I thought, so okay, wait a minute, it's going to cost me money to come do what I do for a living.
Hmm.
Isn't that the same as me writing a check to my client? I don't think I want to do it that
Hmm.
way.
Yeah, and creating this go no go list is not easy, because you're going to be turning people down, and for a lot of business owners, the turning people down is really hard because you want to make the money. But the thing is that if you go below your lowest price on something, or you are not going to be a happy camper. And every little thing that client does that's a little bit out of the norm, and most of the times when you hit your crappy client, there's a lot out of the norm. It's just going to frustrate you, and that's going to cause you more work, and you're going to make more mistakes. So your goal list is, these are ideal situations, and your no-go list is, this is the lowest I will go on this particular area.
Maria, I've got another question. I don't know if you're going to cover this or not, but I thought it was a really fascinating question. Do you have any suggestions for how you let down interested prospect? So if somebody calls and they're on your no-go list, what could you say? How do you sort of let them down easy without making them feel like they're not good enough to be your client?
Okay. So here's what I do. If I like them and if they seem like decent people, number one, it's always my problem. I realize that, you'd love to use my services, but I appreciate it. You sandwich it. That's, you say something nice. You say the truth. You always say the truth each piece, but you say something nice. You say the truth as you see it with the problem that you want to solve, and then you say something nice again, so you sandwich your conversation. So I get people who want to utilize my services, but I really get the feeling that they're not going to be good clients for me. Maybe they need a lot of hand holding, and I am a taskmaster. Not a good thing for a hand holding person, unless they need a taskmaster. And so I'll say to them, I really am not the right person to work with you. I always put it on me.
Mm-hmm.
I never say you'd be a crappy client or something like that. I always put it on me and if they seem like a really good person, so if they want my services and they're not my ideal client, or I don't feel that they are committed enough, I will give them a link to a place where they can find other business coaches. Or I'll find a client will come to me and I'll say, no, I'm not the right coach for what you're looking for, but here's somebody that can help you. Now, if they are really clients I don't ever want to have my name put next to, I'll send them just to resource page. Here's a resource page where you can find other people who might do the same thing or a similar thing to what I do. Is that helpful to the person that asked that question?
I think so. What do
But
you
it's
do?
always about you. Don't make it about them. I something.
Can I ask you a question? This is coming from me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even fake that somebody else said this. What do you do when you're talking to somebody and maybe it's a speaking event, maybe it's a consulting thing, and the problem is they just can't afford you. They're just what it is that they want isn't going to fit in with your price list.
Mm-hmm.
And they're nice people and you'd love to help them, but they just can't afford you. Do you have suggestions? Because I think a lot of people face that where they have a really good quality product that not everybody can afford, but people want it because it's quality.
Right. Well, here's a couple of things that I do. Number one, I keep a list of all the things that people have asked me for, but who can't afford me. Because if you look at the products that I have, they were all created for people who can't necessarily afford my bigger program.
Got it. Okay.
So one of the pluses in listening to those clients and seeing what their needs are is, can you create a product on the bottom of your marketing funnel for those people? It could be a book. It could be a book list. Something that not only will help them, but they'll actually be an added value to your own client. So when I did the business plan program, I started getting asked a lot of questions about this ideal client stuff. And so I started writing articles. Then I wrote so many articles, we put them in an ebook. Then I started teaching classes on it. So you can go from smaller to bringing in those clients. Now my clients get my CDs as part of the programs that I give. And then people that are not monthly clients can go buy them on the internet. So that's one thing. Another thing that I have, because I meet so many brand new business owners and I get real excited, helping somebody start from, I don't know what I want to be this next time I grow up. So I do enjoy that, is I find other ways to work with them. And I was telling you on the phone before we started, I get people who say, I've got $150 extra a month and I want to start a business. What can I do? And I actually give them a list of what they can do in the next 3 months that would fit in that $150 that would help them so tremendously, including getting some help from the SBA and some other resources that I have. And then hopefully in that 3-month period, they've bought some of the products, they've gotten the books, they've done the exercises, and then they can come to me and say, okay, I can hire you for 1 hour to go over all this stuff. Or the other thing they say is, I've read the books and stuff, and there's no way I am ready to be a business owner.
I'm so glad to hear that sometimes.
Mm-hmm. I figure out that I've helped a lot of people not go bankrupt.
Yeah. Or
because they're just not ready.
Or a lot of people not take out their entire life savings and retirement, clean out their retirement account for something that in the next year is going to go belly up.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Other questions?
That's the last one I have right now.
Okay. So ideal client profile is a system. The system that I just went through you, the 6 steps, and then the 7th, which is the go, no go. It's a system. Systems can be duplicatable. So, if you learn a system in McDonald's to create hamburgers, you can take that system into another McDonald's and another McDonald's. So in essence, but you can't take that system and create French fries. It doesn't work. The ideal client profile process is a duplicatable system because first thing you do is you create an ideal client profile. But then when you're trying to figure out who would be a good strategic partner for me, or who would be a good employee for me, or an ideal consultant, you can use that same process of writing it down, interviewing, checking things out, etc., to come up with a really nice list. And so that when you do go look for partners, and for me, let's say good partners for me might be a sales coach or a sales consultant or a business lawyer or a CPA, that there are so many of them out there, but who would be the best partner? Who would be the ideal partner for you? So that when you do meet these people at networking events or speaking engagements or wherever, you actually start to recognize who's the better partner for you.
That makes so much sense. Even one of the things you just said was networking groups. I mean, there's so many places to spend your time networking. Going through this process for networking groups or groups that you belong to in general to decide, where am I going to spend my time? Where am I going to spend my dues money? Where does it make sense for me to invest? Because all of these things, I mean, getting clients and prospecting is an investment. Having strategic partners is an investment. Employees are an investment. Consultants are an investment.
Yep, and so often, and this goes back to the first question that was asked, so many people do marketing and networking and et cetera, and they wonder why the sales process doesn't work for them. A small bit of that reason is because you're targeting the wrong people.
Sure. You're looking for the wrong people in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong message.
You got it. And you more than anyone has got it. But so often I tell my clients, why are you going to 4 networking events that have all the same people as the industry you're in a month? Why are you doing that for? Don't, pick one where you're going to learn the most, because that's why you would stick with a group in your own industry. Find one that you can learn the most, and let's get you going to groups that have your ideal clients in.
Absolutely.
And sometimes those groups aren't networking groups. Your clients are really affluent. You may find better off that you go and join the Rotary, or you join the Lions Club, or one at Kiwanis or something.
Or a country club or something.
Right. You need to be where they're at and where they hang out. That's the main thing of creating an ideal client profile, because knowing who your ideal client is going to affect so many other areas of your business. And so learn a methodology that works. The 6 steps work. As I tell my clients, don't try and not do the interview part. Don't try and not do one of the 6 steps, because you're not going to get the same results. And that's what I have.
So I'm going to give everybody just a minute. If you've got a question and you want to sneak it in here at the end, we've had some great questions throughout the process. Excellent. Here's a question that got snuck in here real quick. Going through this process, I mean, it seems really simple and easy. Do you have, and it seems like a lot of it you can just kind of sit down and think up and be done with it in 30 minutes or an hour. Do you have a suggestion for how many interviews you should do? Is there a kind of ideal number or a minimum number that you ought to do?
I say shoot for 5.
Okay.
And just don't make them all the same. So don't make them all your former clients or your current clients.
Okay.
Definitely look for who that next prospect might be because your ideal client's going to change. As you grow in your business, it's going to change.
How often that's a great point. How often should you revisit your go, no go list? Because, as you grow in your business, in our business, it's very common as you get more experience to raise your rates and increase things. And as you said, as you gain experience, you change your ideal client. Maybe your product offering changes. So who you decide you want to work with changes. How often do you revisit this?
Okay, the first year you revisit it every quarter because you're still kind of going to be tweaking pieces of it. That's if you don't look at, you're going to look at it every day. But you definitely want to revisit the paperwork that you've done once a quarter.
Okay.
Then it becomes, you're going to have it on one sheet. It becomes one of those yearly things that you do. My clients, for example, redo their pricing sheet, or at least look at it. They do their ideal client profile, they redo their elevator speech, and they redo their one-page business plan. And the second time you redo it, it's really simple because there's sections of the work that you're not even going to need to really go over, and there's other sections you're going to need to do again. Maybe you need to do some more interviews. Whatever section of the 6 you need to redo, you redo again. Great question. Thank you.
You're welcome. I don't see any questions coming in. I think we've got them all answered. We've gone just a couple of minutes over the time, but I don't think anybody's going to complain because we got some fantastic questions answered, and we really got to get in depth with the information today. I mean, going through all the 6 steps to create your ideal client profile, and then creating that go, no go list, which really just makes your decisions for you. You're doing the decision making ahead of time instead of on a case to case basis and getting all confused. And what did I say? And what are my what are my guidelines again? And should I take this or should I not? It's all right there on a piece of paper for you. And you don't have to think every single day in every single situation. You've done it all ahead of time.
Yeah, and I would go to events and I would say that, for every hour you plan, it saves you like 5 hours worth of aggravation in the long run. And then I had an organizer come to the program and said, no, it's more like 10 or 15 hours. So even though planning is a pain in the butt for most of us, and me included, I have come to see the benefit of creating systems and a planning system in your company that is easy to replicate and easy to check once a year, etc.
It's that old saying of you've got to take time to work on your business and not just in your business. That is huge. Yep. Well, Maria, I want to thank you again for joining us on the webinar today and giving us so much huge information. That was
you're welcome.
Outstanding.
And thanks